That means what I think about what you're doing. You know, if you're doing what I want you to, that's right. If you're doing what I don't want you to do, that's wrong. Agree or disagree? Right. How many times have you been told something is selfish? How many times have you told somebody they were selfish? What does that mean? That means you're doing what you want to do, not what I want you to. It's kind of weird stuff, huh? There's the huge difference in ethics and morality. You know, how often did you get talked to about ethics when you were a kid growing up? Get talked to about morality? Yeah. I think that the most helpful thing people do when they're kind of trying to get away from, kind of clarify the religious background, is to notice how frequently they try to make judgments based on what's right and what's wrong. And if instead of that, you can think about whether it works or not. You know, does this get the result I want? And does it hurt me or or anybody else in the process? It just seems to me that's a way cleaner way to think about that. But you guys kind of get a lot more than I thought you would. And so you've clearly thought about this a lot. And a smart ass. Yeah.
How are they going to be, good people in society and not be murderers and drug addicts? And so I'm like, it's going to be that way. I don't have to have a religion to teach my children to be good people.
Yeah.
I'm seeing up there right and wrong is I feel guilty now because back then it was like, well, this is the right way, you're wrong, and I would be that judgmental person. And now I'm feeling guilty about how did I treat those people, and here I've come so far, and how do I make up for the way I used to treat people like that?
Well, it goes back to just knocking on somebody's door. I call it the Mrs. Olsen syndrome. You know, your coffee is not right, your cookies suck. This is the best way to do it. And this is how you should be worshiping God. And nobody else's way. No. No, I was looking before your time.
Well, so you do feel some regret then about some of the things that you've done and said to other people.
I mean, well, I was doing what I was told was right to do.
Yeah.
To ostracize people, and now I'm thinking back at it, I'm like, oh my God, I was that person. Wow.
Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know. We frequently kind of act out what we've been subjected to. You know, I grew up in a house where my mother and her self-righteous, God, I can't believe I'm doing that. Well, national TV, right? I guess. You know, my mother was really kind of self-righteous, which gave her the right to be as mean to anybody as she wanted to be and say as the shittiest stuff you can ever imagine in the name of God, right? Well, my dad, was not a religious guy at all, but was really, really kind of kind-hearted and good-spirited and enormously altruistic. You know, and he listened to that for almost 50 years. And I think one day he said, fuck, I can't do this anymore. I think I'll die. You know? Well, oh, but then, I had to notice after a number of failed relationships that, by the way, I had to kiss a lot of frogs to find this prince. It took a long time. But, when I would somebody who I'd been with a long time just left, just gone. Like, I thought we were going somewhere for a 12-year anniversary. I thought we were going to London for 12-year anniversary. And he moved out instead. Boom. Well, can I tell you how much I had to rethink what was going on in my life, and how I had been in that relationship. So what did I learn? I was my mother, for God's sake, That same nasty, mean, critical, self-righteous shit. It's just, too bad he didn't kill me instead, So, but learning, the rule of thumb says the more difficult and the more I dislike something in another person is a pretty good indication that somewhere it's kind of living back in the shadows in me. And usually, the more aware I can become of those things, the less likely they are to pop out. The stuff we know about ourselves is not going to hurt us or other people. The stuff we don't know is what is always getting acted. The things that we know about ourselves are unlikely to hurt other people or us if we really, really know it. But if we don't acknowledge it, then it's popping out all the time. And other people are reacting this stuff out on other people all the time. So the more conscious we are and the more aware we are of our own kind of frailties or, weirdness, the less likely we are to act that stuff out. Well, when you go back and look at a religious background, which is entirely based on proving itself right, and religious people are entirely committed to being sure they're right. So what's happening? They're acting out all of these things they don't even recognize, or all the things they deny about themselves. Thus, Mr. Wide stance, right? Thus, Sarah Palin. What's her? Bachman? Yeah. Who hates fags so much she married one? Yeah. Right. You know what's interesting? I understand that he's not even licensed to practice as a psychotherapist. Yeah, and they somehow found a way to get other people in their clinic who can bill Medicare, which she believed did not exist. Yeah. I mean, the hypocrisy of it all, right? But since we all know religion, I mean, we yeah. Well, can you believe that? So, and it's really hard. It's really hard for me at this point to talk about religion, mental health, or anything without looking at the political component of it too. Because it's all kind of rolled together, and what we've seen is this, this infusion of religious manipulation into politics, and it's really, really terrifying. A few years ago, we were in Austria with this really wonderful woman who's has a PhD in political history. She's married to a British diplomat, and Bruce and I were real interested in what she thought about what was going on in the States. This was during the George Bush era, like about 2004, I think. She said the most curious thing. She said the problem with the States is that you haven't had your religious civil war yet. Yeah. And it was, when she said that, it was one of the most sobering things anyone's ever said to me. Well, all of us have been so close to the inside of religion, right? That we know how profound that is. It was for us. Didn't stop the scotch, but it was a real light bulb moment, I can tell you. Yeah. So, what do you say we take, like, do we have a little bit more time? What do you say we take about 5 minutes, and then let's come back and talk a little bit about relationships, if you'd like. I mean, if that's,